Next tonight to the coroner who has been taken to court by grieving relatives who have accused her of ignoring their religious beliefs by refusing to fast-track burials. Both the Jewish and Muslim communities believe funerals should take place within 24 hours. But the North London coroner, Mary Hassel, says she won't prioritise one death over another. Today, judges at the High Court began hearing the case, as our senior correspondent Ronke Phillips reports.
One of several prominent Jewish leaders involved in the clash between religion and a coroner, which is now being settled by a High Court judge. The question, is it a breach of human rights to refuse to prioritise the deaths of people of Jewish and Muslim religions?
I think it's not only religion and burials which is at stake. This is a very fundamental issue. This is core values of a society that we're about to hear today.
Let me start that over for you guys real quick, because I heard the volume was a little low, so I'm going to play this again. Today's edition of the Diversity Industry is going to focus on even in death, the UK burial diversity industry. An amazing story that happened recently this year. I'm going to start that over. We're going to do a deep dive so you can see how the sausage is made. But this is the story of how it was ruled to be a violation of human rights and the Equality Code to not prioritize Jewish deaths and Muslim deaths, although that, as you'll see the story unfold, is really a bit player in this particular story, over secular and Christian deaths, even in death. And this is, of course, a classic frame game to reframe the meaning of equality to mean, in that classic Animal Farm sense, some are more equal than others. And whenever you see that, you know there is a frame game going on, and somebody in the diversity industry is making a lot of money. Here we go.
Next tonight to the coroner who has been taken to court by grieving relatives who have accused her of ignoring their religious beliefs by refusing to fast-track burials. Both the Jewish and Muslim communities believe funerals should take place within 24 hours. But the North London coroner, Mary Hassel, says she won't prioritise one death over another. Today, judges at the High Court began hearing the case, as our senior correspondent Ronke Phillips reports.
One of several prominent Jewish
volume a little bit, since I think we're getting some reports of volume not being quite as tight as it could be.
leaders involved in the clash between religion and a coroner, which is now being settled by a High Court judge. The question, is it a breach of human rights to refuse to prioritise the deaths of people of Jewish and Muslim religions?
Is it a breach of human rights to not prioritise some over others? Spoiler alert.
I think it's not only religion and burials which is at stake. This is a very fundamental issue. This is core
the fundamental issue
society.
is, do we generally get to have more rights than others? It's not just about the birds, it's what it represents for intersectionality.
That we're about to hear today.
Mother, together with me in New York.
Eva Klein has very happy memories of her mother Esther when she was alive, but says what she experienced when she died has scarred her forever. Both the Jewish and Muslim faith demands loved ones are buried on the day of death or as soon as possible afterwards. Esther, who was 91, was in a nursing home surrounded by family and medical staff. But because it was a Saturday and Boxing Day, it was impossible to contact anyone from the coroner's office.
My mother, my 91-year-old mother, who was in Auschwitz concentration camp.
I'm going to just let that lay there for a second.
Why? Why? It is very humiliating and degrading in our religion for a dead person just to lie around and wait for the funeral.
Mary Hassel, the senior coroner for Inner North London, where Esther died, is now facing a legal challenge against her policy not to offer an out-of-hours service and to adopt a queuing system for all burials. The court was told there's evidence her approach is causing widespread distress. The barrister representing the group bringing the action said his case was not that religious groups must come first, but that religious belief must be conscientiously taken into account by a coroner.
Subject to lobbying.
Why can't we have a deputy? Why can't we have somebody in emergency to help us out? It's absolutely not necessary to delay funerals because of a signature which takes 90 seconds.
No, it's because of public funds and the fact that they're not open on Saturday. So you don't get to jump the line just because you're Jewish. I'm Jewish. Stop doing this. Stop doing this. Stop it. This is a meritocracy. You wanted equality. You don't get to be a line cutter and jumping the lines. But if you summon the power of intersectional Afro-Judeo-feminism and use the full force and might of the diversity industry behind you, well, you can lobby for just about anything.
The High Court judges will hear more evidence tomorrow. Ronke Phillips, ITV
By the
News.
way, that tone in my voice is because this is, even in death, I'm mad, even in death, there is no bottom to the animal farm racial communism behind this. And the stream I did earlier today called The Zeitgeist, The Wedge, and The Favor Bank attempts to break down. Watch that, when you get a chance. It's about 2 hours, so it is pretty long, but I'll try to make a more distilled version of it. But this is the story ostensibly of Jewish and Muslim groups coming together to destroy the life of a high-integrity UK coroner who refused to prioritize a Jewish body over a Muslim body in death. And then the Jewish coalition, spearheaded by the Board of Deputies of British Jews, an ancient Jewish organization, the super head of the Jewish Affinity Network in Britain. For those who don't know, the Board of Deputies was founded in 1760. Let me pull up some information for you guys here. Board of Deputies of British Jews who brought this suit, this legal claim, which metastasized into a full court press championed by Jeremy Corbyn, head of the Labour Party, and Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, who called for these equal laws to end. By the way, the equal laws here, in case I haven't explained this yet, was first come, first serve. That was the rule in London. First body to come into the morgue is the first that gets buried. And then Jewish groups said that that was discriminatory against Jews who need to jump the line ahead of others because of their religious preferences. And then they shoehorned Muslim groups into it as a favors for favors, part of the interfaith coalition strategy to onboard and do favors for local Muslim community leaders who did absolutely nothing in this case other than sit there and be used as pawns in the public full court press, in the media, legal, political, and other forms of diplomatic pressure brought by the Jewish lobby in the UK. So I'm going to walk you through this whole story. It's very instructive, and it dovetails with many other concepts that we've covered to date. But remember that this is also symbolic of the Black economic empowerment programs in South Africa, the affirmative action and affirmative marketing, affirmative supplier vending programs, and everything else that's been shoehorned in under the name of equality, which is the exact opposite of equality. It is anti-equality writ large. It's all done under a doctrine called disparate impact, something which must be dismantled. Let me say this again. Disparate impact in all of its forms must be dismantled in the name of real equality, radical equality, true equality. That means equality under the law. No line skipping, no favors or preferences just because of your racial, ethnic, or religious background. But this one is pretty incredible. This one takes it another level, another one, so to speak. So let's start the story. The story actually began, I think, back in like 2015. This Mary Hassel girl, the coroner in North London, refused to be swayed or bought off by the Board of Deputies of British Jews. Actually, you guys want a little background on the Board of Deputies of British Jews? Now, let me again remind you. The Board of Deputies of British Jews was founded in 1760, which makes it older than America. Okay? Our war for independence. 1776, Constitution 1789. The Board of Deputies of British Jews has been around and kicking it old school in Britannia since 1760. Oh, loud! That's an old organization, older than America itself. They know how the game is played, and the connections are everywhere, as we covered in our last stream. It's all about the personal relationships and the favors that you call in, and this, in this incredible miscarriage of justice, I think is worth diving in a little deep on just who the Board of Deputies, I'm going to call them BDBJ, are. And again, let me say this again. I am proudly Jewish. I know I need to keep beating that drum, but for every time someone watches a video, I don't know if they're a new listener or if they're new to my channel, so I kind of need to boilerplate this every time. I am proudly Jewish, but I call out the abuses, the corruption, and the criminality in the diversity industry, which means all forms of ethnic or gender identity politics, which is organized for political interest or political power or commercial profit. Shoehorned in as anti-racism or anti-Semitism or things like that. So here is a little bit of propaganda from the Board of Deputies of British Jews. What if? This is a video that they released last year. It is a social media self-promotion. You'll get a picture of how they operate. Sorry, let me kick up the volume a little bit. I think it's... let's try that. Whoop.
New figures released today show that the number of anti-Semitic incidents reported across the UK are at a
new reports, they started off with saying that anti-Semitic incidents are at an all-time high. Well, they always are, because of voltage. This is victimhood voltage. I call it the voltage power play. The more discrimination and hatred you face, the more of a moral imperative you have to exact restitution from your oppressors. This is the same thing every good lawyer does when they are putting the amount of damages that they're entitled to in a complaint. The greater the amount of damages, the more money you can get out of the defendant. That's why it's imperative that anti-Semitic incidents or racism incidents or anti-female incidents are always at an all-time high. Now, what's funny about this in 2017 is it was actually a Jewish Israeli individual who single-handedly called in 2,000 bomb threats